It's March 22 and I'm talking about a Christmas movie. Christmas really does start early here in the Philippines. The Muppet Christmas Carol is directed by Brian Henson, written by Jerry Jull, and stars Michael Caine as Ebenezer Scrooge. Now, this is the first Muppet movie that came out after Jim Henson passed away, so he's not puppeteering. The main puppeteers here are Dave Goelz and Steve Whitmire, who play Gonzo and Rizzo the Rat, respectively. And for those who still don't know the story of A Christmas Carol, The Muppet Christmas Carol pretty much does follow the same story by Charles Dickens. And this centers around this man named Ebenezer Scrooge, who is a moneylender, and he's like a really cranky old man. And it's Christmas Eve, and he's just, kind of just being mean to everybody, and he is visited by a ghost who tells him that three spirits, ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and yet to come, will visit him and kind of teach him a lesson. Now, like I said a while ago, this is the first Muppet movie to be released after Jim Henson's passing. Frank Oz is still here, he's still puppeteering in this movie. And this movie really is kind of like a nice, apt, and fitting tribute to his memory because, Christmas movies really do have that kind of spirit of not just sentimentality, but really just love and care. And this was a nice thing to dedicate to him. But since this is the Muppets and Charles Dickens' story is kind of dark at points, some things are lost along the way in translation. But, the heart really does shine through. You can really tell that all these guys really put all their effort into it. Now, this is the first Muppets movie to be a period piece, and as a period piece, it's mounted really beautifully. Like these cobblestone streets of 19th century England or something are really, really nice. Again, you can really sense the scale of everything, and it's just all very well constructed. It's all inhabited by a nice mixture of both humans and Muppets, and they're all dressed appropriately. It's all a very nice looking job. What I like so much about this is the focus isn't really on the Muppets. And, I think that was a good call by them because having like Scrooge played by a Muppet might have kind of taken the edge off, might have made this whole story seem a bit too kiddie. But no, the focus here really is on the world they created. I really like when it's just person with a Muppet and no one questions, hey, you're a Muppet or you're a frog or something like that. No. And since this isn't really focused on the Muppets themselves, like the puppeteering isn't like grand and are really really well done as like in the Muppets Take Manhattan, say, that's not really a problem, and neither are the somewhat dated special effects because again, this is a Muppets movie and it doesn't really bother you that much. It's more really about the story. I also think this movie is paced very well. A Christmas Carol is really separated into kind of like five acts. There's the introduction to Ebenezer Scrooge plus meeting Marley's ghost, and then there's the three spirits of Christmas, and then there's the what happens afterwards. And I really did think they dedicated just enough time to all of those. Also, the time spent with the Muppets feels just right. It never feels like the Muppets take over the story, but it never feels like they've been forgotten either. But my favorite thing with this movie is definitely again the music. The music here is so amazing. I can't believe it. It's just so festive, and it's interesting how this is coming from a bunch of Muppets, but again they are able to make it feel very universal. It really feels like they're doing songs for Christmas Carol, not the Muppet Christmas Carol. The music is very Broadway in a very good way. What I mean by Broadway is that it's sung by different voices. It's very theatrical. Obviously, it's not like a pop song. Again, there's way too many songs to mention, but I think every single one of them is really, really good. My favorite ones are definitely, I think, Scrooge, sung by like the whole cast when they introduce Scrooge, and Statler and Waldorf, who finally get to sing, and they sing Marley and Marley, which is really, really fun. In terms of acting, the Muppets finally got like real credible star power. Michael Caine in this movie as Ebenezer Scrooge, he knocks it out of the park. He is so great. Like, put Michael Caine in any role, he's gonna do fantastic because he is such a great actor. He really gets all the beats down, and it's interesting because like they say that when you're around a really good actor, you suddenly can act better. Also, so when Michael Caine is around these Muppets, suddenly these Muppets do kind of like their voice acting gets better also, and yeah, all of them do really good jobs. It's actually kind of surprising to hear Michael Caine, angry and as a mean guy because you're used to him being the nice dude from let's say Batman and stuff. But also shout out to Steve McIntosh who plays Scrooge's nephew here, and he's in it for a short while, but he's really really good. In terms of direction, I really really like how balanced the direction is between it being a funny Muppets movie and following the Charles Dickens story. They really really do strike that balance really well. Same goes for the dialogue. When the dialogue kind of shifts between the little Muppet gags, which there are definitely less of, and then focusing on the story, it never feels jarring, and never nothing ever feels out of place. It's always, it always works. They really do show good restraint here, and I'm really glad that this movie that they dedicated to Jim Henson, they didn't decide to make it like a Jim Henson fest. They really did keep that spirit of the Muppets alive. And I really do think the plot and the characters are really good, but that's mostly because of how much of a fan I am of the original Charles Dickens story. Like on just the level of storytelling, I think Christmas Carol is really really great. Just this whole, you know, narrative about how this guy turns his life around after being visited by these three ghosts who show him different things. It's really really fascinating. And the character of Scrooge is also like he's supposed to be like this really unlikable person, but you root for him too. However, like I said a while ago, there's some things that are lost in transition because, well, you can kind of tell that this is supposed to be a kids movie, and this is by Disney also. So some of the dark parts in the Christmas Carol can't be included. For one, I didn't think they made Scrooge mean enough, and I'm not gonna blame Michael Caine for this because he was great, really, in everything. But just I think the way they scripted Scrooge, it didn't really allow him to, you know, show himself as this really, really mean person. And you get some mean remarks and whatnot, but they have to get it across that this guy is just despicable. And because of that, the transformation that happens to Scrooge by the end, it doesn't feel convincing enough. It doesn't feel like transformative enough. It doesn't feel like there's much of a difference, honestly. And that's like the main point of A Christmas Carol. I think they could have done that better. Also, I kind of wish, even if I said that I think they did focus on all the acts, pretty equally, I really wish they kind of focused a bit more on the past because a lot can be said in the past as to, how Scrooge ended up this way. And especially this romance the young Scrooge had with this girl named Belle. And I kind of understand why it feels that way because I heard that they cut one of the songs which was going to be sung by Belle, and it's supposed to say a lot about the relationship and stuff, and they cut it from the movie. So something really does feel missing from that. However, overall, The Muppet Christmas Carol is a pretty good film. It's definitely a very solid family film. Like I can imagine back in like 1991, and just watching this with your whole family and bring the kids along, and it's really, there is something here for everybody. The music is great, the story and the characters, the voice acting from the Muppets is still funny. Overall, it's a very good adaptation, I think, of A Christmas Carol, and it's very faithful. And at the same time, it's a good introduction to those kids who, are forced to read it in school and they're not very interested. Show them the Muppets, and then they'll be interested. That's my review of the Muppet Christmas Carol. I probably should have saved this for actual Christmas time, but whatever. Anyway, have you guys seen the Muppet Christmas Carol? What do you think of it? Whatever you think, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment and let's have a conversation.